Thousands of rivers flow across the world, but only one wrote the fate of a civilization. Imagine a glowing green vein in the middle of the desert, a thin line separating death from life, and sacred waters that each year overflow to rebirth an empire. This is not just the story of a river. This is the story of the greatest pact between gods, pyramids, and humanity with nature. Prepare yourself, because now we flow toward the heart of history, to listen to the whispers of the Nile.
The world is crossed by many rivers. The Amazon feeds vast forests, the Danube divides Europe, and the Mississippi is the artery of America. But none has ever held a people's fate in its grasp quite like the Nile. If you look at Egypt from space today, you see a glowing green serpent shining in the middle of pitch darkness. That serpent is the Nile, splitting the desert in two along its 6,600-kilometer journey. 5,000 years ago, for someone living on these shores, the Nile was not merely a source of water. It was the signature of the gods upon the earth. In this documentary, we will explore in the deepest detail how a river transformed into an empire, the hidden engineering behind the construction of the pyramids, and the sacred cycle that began with the flooding of the Nile. Prepare yourself, because a journey into the greatest mystery of the ancient world, toward those sacred waters whose source could not be reached, is about to begin. The ancient Egyptians divided the world in two, Kemet and Deshret. Kemet, meaning black land, was the rich layer of alluvium the Nile left behind each year. Deshret, on the other hand, was the red land, the scorching deserts ruled by death. For the Egyptians, this was more than a choice of colors. It represented the razor-thin line between life and death. So where did this miraculous mud come from? For thousands of years, the Egyptians tried to find the source of the Nile, but each time they were met with vast swamps and impassable waterfalls, the cataracts. Today we know that the source of this fertility lay in the high plateaus of Ethiopia. The Blue Nile arrived carrying volcanic soils, merged with the White Nile, and poured onto Egypt's plains like an elixir of life. The Egyptians were not just farmers, they were history's first great water engineers. The flooding of the Nile had to be based not on chaos but on millimetric calculation. For this they built Nilometers. These massive water wells placed inside temples measured the river's rise, centimeter by centimeter. If the water rose to 16 cubits, about 8 to 9 meters, it meant an ideal flood, and festivals were declared. But if the water remained at 12 cubits, it meant famine, and the pharaoh had to immediately inspect the granaries. These measurements also gave birth to the world's first tax system. The more the river flooded, the more fertile the land became. The more fertile the land, the more taxes the pharaoh collected. In other words, the Nile did not just feed people, it filled the state treasury as well. Now let's pause for a moment and look at the river through the eyes of a person from that era. For them, a god lived within these waters, Hapi. There is a striking detail in depictions of Hapi. The figure is neither fully male nor fully female. The reason was that water was believed to possess both the seed-giving, male, and the nurturing/birthing, female power. While the people sang hymns to Hapi along the banks of the Nile, they pleaded with the river not only for wheat, but also for the peace of their souls, because the Nile was also a burial place that held part of Osiris's dismembered body, a symbol of rebirth. Each flood was like Osiris returning from death. Most people think the pyramids were simply dragged across the sands by slaves. In reality, the true hero was the Nile. While the Giza pyramids were being built, the Nile's floodwaters were brought right up to the construction site through special canals. Limestone blocks weighing tons were transported during the river's high season, floated on massive rafts. Without the Nile, Bringing those enormous stone blocks from hundreds of kilometers away would have been impossible. The Nile was Egypt's first and greatest highway. Ships traveled north with the current and south with the help of the wind. This two-way transportation turned Egypt into the world's first centralized state. The Nile's influence did not end with life. It continued after death as well. The secret behind Egypt's famous mummification process was natron salt, found in the valleys and lakes near the Nile Delta. This natural mixture of sodium carbonates drew moisture out of the body, preserving it for thousands of years. Without this mineral provided by the Nile, the striking mummies we see in museums today would have crumbled into dust. The Egyptians dried their bodies with the Nile's salt while sending their souls to the Nile's western bank, the land of the dead. So where is the Nile today? The Aswan High Dam, completed in 1970, forever changed the Nile's 5,000-year cycle. The river no longer floods. That famous black mud, Kemet, no longer reaches the fields. It accumulates at the base of the dam. Modern Egypt is now dependent on artificial fertilizers and a controlled irrigation system. This brought electricity, but it also imprisoned a spirit that had lived for millennia. The Nile is no longer a god, it is a hydroelectric facility. And yet the secrets beneath its waters are still waiting to be discovered. There is a saying in Egypt, whoever drinks from the waters of the Nile will one day surely return to it. This river is not just the story of water, but of the extraordinary balance humanity forged with nature. Imagine a river upon which alphabets were born, mathematics advanced, stars were tracked, and the desire for immortality was carved into stone. As long as the Nile continues to flow, this brightest chapter of human history will never close. Even if the sands cover everything, the water will remember it all. And at every sunset, as the sun melts into the Nile's waters, it continues to whisper softly, "I am life, I am death, I am Egypt,